right, I've hit the button. We're here. Just Chris and I today.
The dream team.
I know.
The dream team.
I know.
Where's Jules?
She's in Croatia.
What? She's on another holiday.
No. I think this is a coup, though. I think she's taken over the government. I don't quite know. But we did get a picture of her drinking beer in the afternoon. So,
Here we are, pulling our weight, Friday afternoon.
I know. But Julia is definitely part of this podcast, to be sure. She's here.
Well, and I know who's definitely not part of it.
Well, it's not you. We'll get into that in a minute. Let's go. Welcome to the Good Brand Podcast. Good is a brand consultancy based in the United Kingdom. We do lots of nice work for lots of nice people, some of which you're going to hear from today. I am joined for some of this podcast by Mr. Christopher Lumsden.
Hello. Not for the main part of it.
Not for the main part, which is hosted by myself and Ms. Julie Murdoch, who is swanning around Croatia doing stuff, because doing this podcast looks quite hard. So today we're lucky to talk to one of our clients, Caroline Jones from Anatomical Concepts, and I'll let Caroline introduce herself in a bit, but I just think it's a really interesting conversation. You're going to hear about how organisations use brand, and while it's maybe one of our more smaller clients, the impact it's had has been fantastic for the business. So, will we just crack on? Anything else you want to say?
Why not? No, let's hear it.
All right.
Let's come back after.
Okay. Thank you for joining. Let's kick off. Who are you, and what do you do, and where do you work?
Okay, I am Caroline Jones, or you know me as CJ. I am one of the co-directors of Anatomical Concepts based in Glasgow, so neighbours of yours. And we are here to provide technology, lab technology, and a really personalised service for people following a life-changing illness or injury. So we work with the NHS, with the spinal units, and with a lot of people at home to provide rehab equipment to help them improve their potential following illness or injury, and also to improve their long-term health outcomes.
And we first met 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You were kind of looking, well, what were you looking for? And what spurred you to find it?
Sure. So at the beginning of 2020, Derek, who's my co-director, and I had bought out his original partners and founders, which will be nearly 30 years ago this December. And they'd been looking at succession planning, and we had been looking at driving and building the business. So it was the right time to make that change. And we had this 25-year-old business with a good reputation, a lot of heritage, but we'd also shifted. What we were doing was quite different to what we'd done in the previous 2 decades. We wanted it to have more of our tone of voice, our values. We wanted to drive some growth. We wanted to bring new people in, and we just didn't feel that the brand that we have, both in our tone of voice and visually, did anything for us. So we specifically set out, I guess kind of luckily knowing that we needed to do a brand piece and knowing that it was bigger than just a logo. And I had specifically Googled Glasgow because one of our values, I guess, was to work with businesses local to us, to have people we could speak to face, and who could probably understand our tone of voice and our particular vernacular, perhaps, without too much difficulty. And that's how I found good.
So what was missing? Because you had a company, and for all the time we worked with you, you guys are always busy. And to dedicate the time to go into that, I mean, what was missing? What did you feel that needed to take that breath before kind of moving on with the business after the buyout?
Well, that's a really good question. I don't want to say personality, because it's bigger than that. And I did reflect. I went back through some of the original scoping and some of our, really early work together. And I think I remember the feeling of it. I remember talking to you all about it and went, this is completely new for you all. And we were so deeply passionate about it. And we really wanted to do a better job, because we knew if we did a better job of talking about it, we would find more people to help again. That seems very kind of, of course it's a business, right? So the help part is we need to drive sales, we need to make a living. But at the same time, and I did capture that as well, is that we're happy also to say no. And I think that was a really big part of who we are, is we're not just here to sell you something. We are here to guide you at a point where maybe that guidance is not necessarily impartial, or there's a lot of noise, and we're just going to say, hey, it's fine, take a breath. And you helped us capture that and live it, which is it's quite a unique thing.
The energy in the room in the first meeting, we tried to bottle it. I mean, that was really our job of trying to do it. And it was the passion was there, the empathy was there, the knowledge was there, the expertise was there. But we were in the room for an hour and a half, and it was like, how do you get all that? You can't physically go out and do an hour and a half of that. So how do we give people that taster of that, of who you are and what you stand for, so that at least they're kind of going, these people, we want to know more about these people. And I think that was the challenge that we had for us, but it was pretty straightforward because it was there. You know?
Nailed it there, because it's exactly who you are and what you stand for. You know, Derek and I individually, as individuals, knew who we were and what we stood for. And we knew how we wanted that to be built into the business. And it was pulling that all together. And now it's like, well, the business does know who it is. And collectively, we know what we stand for. And that's a really powerful thing to have.
No, that obviously, and you've touched on it there, the business as a whole was going through quite a transition at that time in terms of ownership, etc., and looking to grow the team and build the team. And was that kind of one of the, how from onboarding new people, from the informing the recruitment process from your side, is that something that you envisaged that this would help, and has it then helped that subsequently as you've grown the team?
Yes, absolutely. For me personally, I want to work for a business that I feel passionate about. So, I mean, our mission and our values are on the front cover of any official document we have. It's like, this is front and center. This is who we are. If you don't feel good at getting past that first page, probably the fit's not right. And we wanted it to, I discussed this last week in the office with Jackie, our office manager. And we're looking at recruiting just now, and we were looking at job descriptions. Like, okay, actually, we need to change this language, because this is all about what the job is. This is all about the tasks that we're going to do. But you need to know what it feels like. You need to know the why. You need to have, and the person that comes in needs to deeply connect with that, because there are conversations that will happen in the office that I think to some more commercially driven minds would be like, well, that's insane. Like, why would you say no to that? Or why would you bring in more challenge in that way, or why are you going out of your way to do this? And it's like, well, that's because that's who we are, and if we figure this out for one person, we will figure it out for more. There's a little bit of discomfort in that sometimes. So a lot about working in this environment is about feeling, and there's not really any getting away from that. So yeah, it is. It's front and center of the way in which we tell people about the job, how it is put together, and how we recruit to get that fit of a person to come in.
And when you went through the process, had you been through a process like this before?
Yes, but not good ones. And it's not to say any of the companies that I worked with in the past on either side of the table were good or bad. I think a lot of them had really good intention, but we, in a way, were privileged as a small business that if we decide to do it, that's what's getting done, and everyone's accessible and everyone buys into it. And some of the larger organizations, it wasn't always communicated well as to why it was valuable. You weren't necessarily brought in to give your input, your reaction, your feeling, or what even you might be doing in your job day to day, which is a big part of what that company did. So there wasn't the same buy-in, and there wasn't the same heart put into it. It was much more kind of clinical. Or it was very sticky notes on the whiteboard thing, which I'm sure is why I have an aversion to sticky notes on a whiteboard, even though I do it myself now sometimes.
They have their place. They have their place, don't they?
Yeah, they definitely do.
I think from I would say, and again, and this, from our perspective, and I remember the early conversations that we had, because we often say, we're not in the proposal writing business, but sometimes it can feel like you are in the proposal writing business when you're on version 15 of something, for trying to nail exactly what a client. And I think that what was refreshing about working with you early on, and you do, again, we say like the sale is the sample when we're talking about clients, and you get a feel for what clients are going to be like to work with and how they want how the process might go. And I think, you were very clear on what you needed the output to be, even though you didn't know necessarily what that process would look like. And I think we had a couple of versions of an outline of a kind of, this is how it might work. Here's the process. Here's the steps in the dance. This is what the kind of key deliverables are. And then I think, we then moved to kind of sign off and get the ball rolling really quickly. And I think, again, that the kind of that early part of the process, in terms of, like you say, you weren't being very prescriptive of how you wanted the process to work, but you were very clear in terms of how you needed the output to drive the business forward, which I think is a really good starting point for us to kind of work back from.
We knew we were employing the experts and we trusted you. So we knew we had to put a lot of our thinking, like we think this, just off to the side a little bit, because we understood we'd be open to some criticism. We already knew what a lot of that was in advance of you even coming in. So it's like, all right, big girl pants on, just take it on the chin. This is why you're doing it, And it was always our aim for you to lead it and us to really fully participate in it and be honest in our reflection so that you could also do a better job.
And I think that vulnerability coming in is instantly respected. And also the people that you put us in touch with, because there was a fact-finding exercise. I was on the phone to a lot of different people, not all of which, who all liked you, but definitely had points where, what would be great, what would be good, and everything else, which again was quite, because normally when I'm on the phone to people, it's because you're going to get the shining light back upon you. And it was nice. And while everybody was very positive about you, said, what would be good? It would be good if there was constructive criticism that you would get with a team that you knew that was a partnership. So I think your vulnerability when it comes in is there.
Yeah. And just as an aside, it was during peak COVID, if you like.
Yeah. It just
wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think we'd maybe signed off on like the 17th of March. And we're like, right, okay, let's kick this off. In some ways, I think that helped us because we were like, well, we're all in now. It's going to be really annoying because we're not going to be out on the road. So we might get a lot.
Yeah, of course. Of course, that's right.
And that could have been, there could have been a feeling of disconnect. We purposefully looked for a local company to work with so we could have those conversations across the table, but it wasn't necessary. It wasn't actually necessary. We managed to do this really powerful piece of work on a screen together. And I do remember all of that scoping work, all of these conversations that came back, and just feeling kind of relieved. I'm like, oh my goodness, thank goodness that's what people think. Because that's what it's felt like, but we don't really know because we've never actually asked.
Yeah.
And having someone else do it because when you go out to ask these things, you think people do want to have a little bit of a rose tint on it, or they're going to be maybe not as truthful as they would to a third party. That was incredibly valuable. And then I remember, because I was staying with my parents at the time, so I was crouched behind, I think, the screen, Derek, and going through these things and just being, wow. And the first time we really went through that mission and vision statement was, like, I get emotional now. It was powerfully connected. And it was just like right now, when do we start? Really, it was brilliant.
I mean, was there any, as part of the process, was there any surprises about the way that came up, or did it? In some ways, there shouldn't be, because it all came from you. There shouldn't be any surprises. In some ways, the fact that it condensed your thinking is exactly our role here. We just want to prove it's true, and thankfully, because there's one thing you guys sitting in a room going, we're this and that, and that's going, well, these guys are great, but you've got to balance that out by going, well, people, is there a disconnect there? But was there anything surprising, or did it all go to plan?
There was nothing surprising, as in, I didn't expect that to happen. I mean, I guess I was surprised at the depth of the review and the analytics that you did of everything that we already had, which is a lot. Right. And because one of us really, really likes to write a lot of words. So there was a lot to go through. Really good words, I will add. But like a lot of technical stuff alongside some really quite personal things, and then just researching our industry in an area that you didn't know and being able to reflect it back meaningfully. And for us to actually go, well, I like that and I don't like that. This is why. Or not even like, dislike, just like, yeah, that's
Yeah, feels right, doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
And how much of what we ended up with that was already our words.
Right,
That
right,
you
yeah.
found that. You found it and you went, this stuff is great, but it's just hidden. And reflecting on that more and more, going, oh man, it was always there. We just
always
needed
was.
someone to show us.
And do you think then, just moving on to thinking about, and you've kind of touched on it already around the kind of recruitment and how you think and feel and sort of communicate to the wider team, but in terms of embedding the new, in inverted commas, brand, because it wasn't. It was a new articulation of something that was already very, very kind of deeply rooted. Do you think I guess a couple of questions is how has that been sort of embedded and rolled out across different aspects of the business since? And do you think did it kind of come quite naturally because a lot of it was kind of a feeling that was there already? It became more about then how do you talk, externally and about the brand?
Yeah, it's definitely easier to plan strategically when you have a solid brand. When you have the core, when you have your values set in and breathing in your company, it's much easier to know this is the right direction, this is a distraction. So when we're sitting together with our yellow sticky notes on our whiteboard, it's just but sometimes. Again, as a small business, lots of stuff comes up. There are lots of things you could do, and it can get really overwhelming, and you're pulled into 100 different directions, and everyone is, because you're chief cook and bottle wash, right? So you're, firefighting and thinking and getting excited all the time. And sometimes you just sit down and go, okay, what's important? And the easiest thing in the world is to go, oh, this project, does it meet our core values? So I think I described this before. So we have our 3 core values, and if it hits all 3, so if a project hits all 3 and we're excited about it, then that's going to be a high priority to do, like, within the next strategic year. Let's kick that off. That's important. If it's hitting 2, but it's maybe a little bit lower down the list, it's a nice to do. It's probably going to really support one area of the business, but it's not quite all of us. But it might grow. If it doesn't hit any of them or just hits 1, then we'll leave it. And I was trying to think of examples. So I was like, what have we left out? But I can't remember them. And I can't remember them because they weren't important. Like they weren't hitting it. So that it was also really easy to just chuck them away. Because in that moment,
move on.
Yeah, you're like, all right, that doesn't work. And you can justify it immediately and just throw it away. Fine. Whereas the other stuff, those are the things that live, and those are the things that go into our 3-year and our 5-year. And we actually have a planning meeting on Friday this week, and we're excited about it.
And compared to the kind of, you've gone through the experience before, and obviously this experience, and the thing that obviously must drive it is the fact that as the founders of the business, you believe in it heart and soul. And even now, you're not passionate about the process. It's passionate about yourselves. It's just articulated through the word brand. I mean, there's not, it is that thing about it just being, this is who we are and this is what we do. It's quite exciting for us as practitioners to kind of hear you talk like that, because sometimes we go, does it just live in a drawer? Because the process can be quite difficult. The fact that it's not just, well, we've done that, let's live in a drawer and let's just carry on regardless, it's just really nice to hear, to be honest.
And just building on that, I think you just touched on it there. You've obviously got a planning meeting coming up, looking ahead. So we're 5 years in from when we did this rebrand. And we talk a lot about kind of creating those enduring foundations and the foundational aspects of the brand that shouldn't change with the wind or when the latest trend comes along. Do you feel that you have that in the business when you look forward to where you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years' time? Do you still see that as something that's very much going to underpin where you go next, the kind of those values and vision and mission that's got you to here?
Yes, our brand mission, our values are not going to change. I couldn't see them in my tenure of the business really needing to change. And that I might change my mind. But I think it's what we do. I think if we turn around at some point and go, actually, this doesn't fit anymore, it means our business has changed. And that's okay.
Pivot. Yeah. Yep.
That's absolutely okay. I think that's acceptable. In its current form and what we're doing now, these are the foundations and this is what is strong and this is what is informing how we move forward. So, I mean, I think that's 5 years already. I'm like, well, they've definitely got another 5.
Yeah.
They've probably got 15.
And we've talked a lot about how important it's been internally. Has it helped with conversations with potential customers or partners? Has it made it clearer what you stand for there?
Yes, it's clearer to people. I think because we're being more direct in our language. And that sounds ridiculous.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Communication. So whether it's myself or Derek, Jackie, or the rest in the office, we all have this tone, assuredness, friendliness, trust. We all kind of say the same types of things, and it feels cohesive. So I'll get into conversation and they'll go, "Oh, you know what, Jackie did say that to me," or "I understand, yeah," or such and such, and you feel it coming back to you.
That's great.
People use our language back to us all the time, and it's lovely because
it must be nice to hear. Yeah, that must be nice to hear it coming back. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you're in that space where it is the technology that you're working with and dealing with. There's and this was always the thing that struck us from the beginning, the technology element of it, and the rehab side of it, and then the sort of the therapeutic side of it, that, you know, or the people-centered bit of it that are so intertwined in somebody's recovery. And I think it's really easy to get we deal with tech companies all the time, and talking about how clever and effective and smart and innovative the technology is really, really easy. It becomes a sort of default a lot of the time when you're talking to product people. But I would say it's probably even more important in the business that you're in because of the more holistic service that you're offering or that you're providing. To be able to kind of simplify some of that language and be able to talk about, you know, the technology, but it's not just tech though, is it? It's not just equipment. It's a much broader thing that you're enabling in terms of someone's recovery.
Yeah, and that was a part of the work that we did together, was identifying those audiences. I say audiences in a broad term, or our kind of client groups. And again, they haven't changed. We're always working with clinicians. We're always working with clients, patients at home. We're always going to be involved with medical, legal, and kind of case management side. And those three audiences require different,
quite distinct
language. They've got really different aims and goals. They overlap. But you do watch when you're speaking to people, not to dumb it down. You know, when you find when somebody has come through a catastrophic injury or they spent a lot of time in hospital, there are times in my early career where I'd meet people and I'm like, my Lord, they know so much more than me, because they have lived this terminology for 6 months, 12 months, you know, they are going home and reading things and it's rhyming off all the time. And I'll go, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? You know, but that's part of when you're in crisis, you do tend to research and you go for everything you can. So when we're writing for those clients as well, we're not trying to say, oh, this is really nice and it's going to be really helpful. No, it's transformative, because that wouldn't be authentic. We always try and speak to them and say, this could be an option. It's basically this, and it might get you here.
The thing is, especially when we're talking, people say you couldn't sell hope. That was one thing, you know, it wasn't selling hope. It was selling a potential path. At no point were you I mean, not that you were promising that, and it was options that you were giving people rather than, and it was really interesting because it was very difficult, because hope is what people want. You know, they want hope when they're talking to you, and you needed to pull that back. It was that balance.
Yeah, you can't make promises.
No. It was always quite an interesting thing, just to try and get that balance between being positive, because you've got to be positive, but not necessarily over-promising on that. Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, what advice, if a business owner what advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about going through this process? You know, how should they prepare for it?
I think if somebody is considering, especially as a small business, doing a brand exercise, if you're thinking about it, you probably need to do it. That's the first thing. If it's sitting niggling away as going, oh, this doesn't feel quite right, then just start the process and go into it really open and with a bit of vulnerability, because you know what you do, and sometimes it's getting that reflection that helps you understand how everybody else sees what you do. Yeah, I think it's thinking about it more than just the logo. I'm sure there's times where brands could come in and you go, well, you look fine. You're just not living it. And that itself is an incredible reflection to have. And if you're not living it, then it's why. Are the words not quite right? Or are you not communicating it through your team or through your departments in a way that allows them to have buy-in? If we were bigger as a company, when we'd have come to you, then I know you would have led us through that more. There would have been more work to do. And I think that's, as we grow, is something that we will keep coming back to, going, actually, oh my goodness, if there is this whole department now, how do they feel part of it? How do they take that message? How do they breathe that in the way that everybody else does? Because you don't want that disconnect.
And you touched on it already. It's about, and we talk about that as well. How do you make it meaningful? It's across the business, and like you say, particularly in bigger organizations, where there's HR functions and full product teams and sales and marketing, everyone. It's just getting that alignment on the core,
and reviewing it. So
yeah,
that's the other side, is do what you say you're going to do, or do what you say you're doing. Because if you break that continually, then you internally lose trust and lose sight of the purpose. And it's probably, again, when you're a bit bigger than we are, we do have moments where you're like, that didn't feel good, or that probably wasn't.
And it is. It's back to that feeling again, isn't it? You've talked about it at the start.
I don't mean to be all woo-woo about it and go, well, it's all about the feels, but it lives in your gut. We go, oh, that didn't feel good. I don't want to do that again. You have to be honest and reflect with your team and say, well, the reason that didn't work was, if we feed it all the way back up the chain, well, you go, well, yeah, that doesn't sit with us being compassionate experts. Where was our compassion in that moment where you accidentally sent a slightly sweary word? That doesn't work very well. So you have got to actually do it. Otherwise, people see it as being fake.
What I would, and this isn't just about blowing smoke up your arse as a client, but I think the content that you push out through channels like LinkedIn, it does feel authentic. It feels like your brand. It feels like it's that nice balance between CJ the person and AC UK the business. And I think it doesn't, while it's not, it's a bit of, it doesn't feel like you're trying to do something unnatural. Do you know what I mean? Or sell, buy, sell on these. You know what I mean? The content feels like it's got an authenticity.
I'm not going to be using any automated messages and telling me how delighted I am to connect to your network. And
so, what's next for AC UK? What's next for Anatomical Concepts? Because you've been going strong.
Yes. Well, we're
not asking for any trade secrets. Don't worry, we're not asking for trade secrets.
It's doing more of what we're already doing, but a bit better. So we've launched some new products this year, which have done really well, and we're feeling more confident in and try and reach out a little bit more directly to people, particularly to our end users who really are our biggest champions. We get a lot of personal referrals still, and that's really great for us. I will say it because it's fun, and if I say it here, then it definitely has to happen. So we've wanted for a long time to build an education side to what we do. We are absolute experts in the field of FES, functional electrical simulation, in the UK. And more people need to know and understand it to be able to apply it. It's got huge potential, and it's so much more versatile if people could understand. So we feel like it's our responsibility to create more accessibility, more tools, more workshops, and allow people to be hands-on and play and ask us informally. It's a non-revenue generating side of the business, but it is hitting our compassionate expert side. It is hitting our pioneers of technology, and it is building in those partners that are so important to how we build and drive for our end customers. So it's kind of a no-brainer to build a suite of education and make that accessible to more people. So that's one of the biggest projects. The other one I can't talk about because it's too big and exciting. But we'll
next time.
Talk about that later.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Great. Yeah. It's always a treat because it's just lovely to hear it. You would have done brilliantly without the brand, but the fact that you have the brand there to guide you is just fantastic for us, and it's always been a treat to catch up and see what's going on. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for your continued support.
It's a pleasure.
It's brilliant to work with. We're really, I'm not going to say lucky because we all planned this. We all chose to work together and to do a good job. So it's not lucky. We designed it. I would say if I could do it again, I would, but I don't need to.
Don't need to. Right. Damn it.
You're crying. Shut up. You're crying. Right. Thank you very much.
No worries. Good to talk to you.
Loved it. I loved that.
Well, listen, it's great actually not being part of it because then you can appreciate it for what it is. And I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, really good. I think she's very good at explaining herself.
Yeah. Any takeaways from the outside perspective?
Well, I think it's a beautifully formed little case study about the value you can get from leveraging brand if you treat it front and center and if you use it at the tip of the spear. I think. And she's always been very good at articulating that stuff. And listen, I think, we were, as an organization, pretty blessed when they turned up and when we met, because it's not lost to me. I think as an organization, they were in a difficult place, or they were in a place where evolution was needed and change was needed. I think, them as a team, as a management team, knew they needed, and she said it herself, they needed to do something more than just redesign the logos. And then I think she as an individual is very sort of temperamentally suited to working with us. I think there's a great synergy there, and she's able to articulate and talk and distinguish between the abstract and then the practical application of the work as we do it. She's able to switch between these two things really, really comfortably, and I think that's relatively unusual for some of the clients we work with. So I think it's a bit of a meeting of minds.
Yeah, no, it's also, I think I said, and I think it's just nice to hear it the brand not being stuck in a drawer, that it's not stuck in a drawer, it's front of the brochure,
Active,
front of the document,
yeah.
It's there. And it
was great hearing her talk about how it's used. They pull it out and use it in a day-to-day meeting about hiring or projects. That's lovely. Really nice.
Yep.
And I'd had nothing to do with it.
Well, yeah. No, you were out and about. Well, it was COVID. You had other things to worry about, like if we were here by the end of 2020.
That week. But yeah, I really enjoy it. I think she's a very good person to have on the podcast.
Agreed. Thank you, CJ. Right. All right.
Grand.
Thanks for
all
that.
the best.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.